MPS Chesapeake office. Oh, thank you. Please check off that you're okay with the recording. We're going to record both today and tomorrow. And welcome to the session that we're doing today, which we've positioned as networking, lunch, and chat. We are focused on reinvigorating the Chesapeake Gateways program. And really, we'd like to first just introduce the team that's hosting us today. With me today is Bob Campbell, who's the MPS Chesapeake Gateways Planning and Development Manager. Give a little wave, Bob. Also, Rebecca Stanfield McCowan, who's the director of the MPS Stewardship Institute, and our partner, Brent Mitchell from QLF. Many of you would have that helped with the sessions that we did together this past year to develop our strategic plan would have met the team. And I just want to thank them for getting us over the line. And we're so excited about having the plan and the framework out for you all. And I want to do a little call out to our team that's here. If you're with the Chesapeake Gateways program, either an MPS employee or one of our Gateway employees with the Conservancy, please say hello in the chat. Okay, so we are going to start how we've been starting with our Gateway sessions with a networking opportunity. We've sort of started this during our planning sessions, and we're looking to do it again this time. And so we're going to be sending everyone out into groups of 3, and depending on how many we have, you might have 2 or you might have 4 people in your group. We call them networking triads. It's informal networking where you'll get to say hello. You might be meeting someone new, and we hope that folks get to meet new people, or you might be also saying hello to someone you haven't seen in a while and catching up. So this will be a short time where we're out in our little individual rooms. We'd ask everyone to say your name and your organization, and then share something fun that you did this past summer. And in particular, was there anything special done for you to make you feel welcome or to help you enjoy yourself? So as this little networking exercise, share your name, your organization. Was there something fun you did this summer? And was there anything special done to make you feel welcome? And then we'll come back and maybe have one person share and others share in the chat. And then we'll get started with, I'm going to walk through the 4 strategies from the new strategic plan and give updates on the work that we've been pursuing under each strategy. And then the second half of our session this afternoon will be listening and talking about getting your thoughts on designing a new grants program for Chesapeake Gateways. So thanks everyone for being here. And Brent, if you're ready to send people out to their triads, have fun.
This is Bill Street. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Bill.
Hi, who's that?
This is Brent Mitchell. Sorry.
Hi, Brent.
Are you the one that had to call in?
Yes.
Yeah. So as I hope you heard Wendy say, we've sent everybody into breakout groups for about 10
Uh-huh.
minutes. And unfortunately, I don't think Zoom can do that for telephone callers. So
Oh, okay.
you're going to enjoy a few minutes of silence, I'm afraid.
Okay. No worries there.
Yeah. Um, and also, there's a very brief video during the course of the hour. I think it's maybe less than a minute, but you may just have silence when that's running. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll go back on mute then and just wait for the rest of
Okay, that sounds good.
very good. Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, for anyone just joining us, everyone's off into breakout groups for a couple of minutes. We're just about to wrap that up, and then you'll be hearing from Wendy again. So just bear with us a minute as we conclude that.
All right, welcome back. Others will be rolling back as the clock ticks down. All right, everybody coming back in. Welcome back. All right, before I get started on my update and presentation, we're just wondering if someone had from their little, networking that they just did, is someone interested in sharing either what they heard or what they shared about an example of feeling welcome?
I'll share. I'll just say that I mentioned that I took a river trip down the Rappahannock River with Chief Ann, the chief of the Rappahannock tribe, and went up to the top of Phones Cliffs and was able to both feel welcomed and see it through her eyes like I'd never seen it before. And it was an awesome experience in a natural kind of resource sort of way, but also a cultural resource sort of way.
Thanks, Joel. That sounds
Wendy,
incredible.
I can jump in too real quick.
Nice.
We're really excited. I've been working with Brittany and Devin and my education team, and we're excited to be working with Hampton City Schools this year on a National Park Foundation grant. And it's just been very welcoming to see Hampton City, NPS, and James River kind of all mingling together and trying to figure out how to offer the best education to the students. So we're really excited to partner with those groups.
Thank you.
Does that include the Port Monroe Authority?
It does, yes. Yep. We were chatting with who is that, John? There we go. Yep. It is the Port Monroe Authority.
Thank you.
Sorry, I left you out there. Apologize.
So we teed this question up for two reasons. One is we've all not been able to get out as much over the last year or so as we would like. So it was an opportunity to get some vicarious enjoyment from each other's travels and stuff. And the other is a little bit, nefarious, but it's just a reminder. The second question is a reminder for us all that we're in partnerships with our communities and other organizations and the, hotels and restaurants and all those things. And so we're always, it's important for us all to think about being ambassadors in whatever way we can to help our visitors and help communities feel welcome at our site and in our community. And so that's why that question was posed in there. So probably you all got a taste of that and sharing on that thought.
Thanks, Bob. All right. Well, we'd love to hear other, examples if folks want to put that in the chat, and we'll get started with the presentation. So we're going to pull up some slides. Okay, so I'm gonna start here with the map of the Chesapeake watershed to really show the scale and scope of the importance of the watershed. And it is always worth noting that the Bay is the largest estuary in North America, and its 40 million acre watershed is home to over 18 million people, and all of its rivers and streams are so important to our really our culture, our economy, our recreation, and our health. So just start with sort of acknowledging the watershed. And I'll share that the National Park Service, we have several key roles related to the Chesapeake. First, and sometimes maybe people aren't even aware the extent to which the NPS is in the Chesapeake. We have 58 units of the National Park System and several national trails that are within the watershed. In addition, NPS is a leading partner under the Chesapeake Bay program, which is the major federal multi-state partnership to restore and conserve the Chesapeake and the watershed. And the NPS office is also who founded the Chesapeake Conservation Partnership, which we continue to co-convene with our dear partners, the Chesapeake Conservancy. And if folks aren't familiar with the Chesapeake Conservation Partnership, it is a coalition of agencies and private land trusts working to conserve 30% of the watershed by 2030. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. But the central program the NPS Chesapeake manages is the congressionally created Chesapeake Gateways and Water Trails, which is a technical and financial community assistance program. And we support all of you, the network of over 300 special places that protect and share a piece of what makes the Chesapeake, its rivers and communities so special. And over the past 20 years under Chesapeake Gateways program, the NPS has invested over 30 million across the watershed, all with a strong focus on innovation, conservation, public access, storytelling, and youth programs and employment. And that support has gone to many of you that are with us today, where you have matched and leveraged those funds and gathered other funds to really connect everyone with the Chesapeake history, culture, and the outdoors. So we just want to do a shout out to all the partners that are on with us today. Next slide. What we're excited to share is that our two important formational and founding documents have been updated, and we've shared that out with you all. It was they were attached to the meeting invite, so if you hadn't noticed that, you could go into the meeting invite and download those. The titles for both of those are listed as pre-release because we're working to get them 508 compliant, and then we'll post them on our nps.gov website. But we wanted to share with partners ahead of time. We have been working over the past year, really working almost 2 years to refresh Gateways, Chesapeake Gateways, and that has included updating what's called the Chesapeake Gateways framework document. For any of the NPS folks on the call or partners of NPS, you could think of the framework document as being really similar to what are known as foundation documents for national parks. And it really outlines our structure, our key themes, our goals, and our leading partners to achieve what is the Gateways network. And then tearing down off of the framework is the new strategic plan for Chesapeake Gateways, which is a 5-year strategic plan. And the multiple partner sessions and planning sessions that we held together this past year is what has resulted in the strategic plan. So next slide. What I'll do here is these are the 4 key strategies that the strategic plan really binds itself to. They are the pillars of the work that we will do for the next 5 years. So again, I want to thank all the partners that spent hours and really multiple sessions with us to craft the new strategies. What I hope you see is that those sessions are reflected in the strategic plan. You all saw the draft before it's gone finalized, and it was so important to have those sessions with y'all because we did capture pieces that then got updated in the final. And what I'll do is just run through all 4 of the key strategies. And as I do, I'm going to provide updates on work and projects and partnerships that the MPS Chesapeake office has been moving forward under each of the strategies. Next slide. So, it really all starts with rebuilding the core network. And this strategy is focused on adding capabilities and extending opportunities for learning and sharing across the network. And you can see some of the key framing and action here, providing technical assistance and training, facilitating more networking across the partners, growing the membership, looking at ourselves and seeing, do we truly reflect a community, and looking to add to the membership. And then also just promoting and advocating for the Gateways network. Next slide. Some of the work that we've been doing on this over the last year or so has really been about the building blocks. And for us, really big, exciting news in this realm. Of course, getting the framework document updated is really important, because that has provided us the basis to then really build out the vision for bringing and building back the MPS sort of role and support for Gateways. And the exciting news is that we're hiring. We have, our regional office has approved a new organization chart for Chesapeake MPS office. And so we've moved forward with the first 3 positions, a chief of partnerships and grants, a chief of communications and visitor experience, and the administrative officer for the office. Those closed just a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. And so we're waiting to get the list of individuals to interview, and just really have high hopes of bringing an excellent management team on board. The other exciting news here about, sort of the building blocks is we are very well positioned in the President's fiscal year 22 budget. In the MPS budget request that went to Congress earlier this year, the MPS was listed twice under Chesapeake Gateways funding that has its own line item. We are listed at $3 million, the same as what we received this year, which was the first time we'd reached up to our full authorizing amount. And we also have a second budget item in the MPS budget request, which is considered our base funds. And through some hard work from our office to justify it and support from the region up the line, we have a budget request to double our base budget, to go from $496,000 of our base budget with an additional $500,000. So in essence, doubling our base budget. That will really, and the justification for that is to support our responsibilities under the Chesapeake watershed agreement, which you'll see in just a little bit. The crossover and nexus between our responsibilities for the Chesapeake Bay program and Chesapeake Gateways is really, there's synergy between the two. So that's exciting news. The other pieces that we've moved ahead on is we're just in the final design phase and just completed what's called the MPS Unigrid. So the map and brochure, the little mini copies of which are on the screen. It has been over 10 years since we've had an updated Chesapeake Gateways map and brochure. So we're excited to move that forward. We'll get copies printed and be able to share that out with all of our partners. And the other piece to share is we're working on and understand that we also need to refresh our digital presence on mps.gov to really take advantage of the powerhouse that is the MPS website. And to help us with that, through some new sort of exciting hiring authorities where we can bring on people for project work, under a program called Experienced Workers Program. We've brought on Mike Bento, who is an expert in marketing and communications, formerly with Ogilvy and used to be a VP with the National Park Foundation. So we're really excited to have Mike on board, give a little wave. And that'll be something that we'll be looking to move forward this fall into the winter. And so a lot happening on the building blocks here. Next slide. And so the next big pillar is just so fundamental, and it's to advance a major inclusive interpretive initiative with an equity lens. And so this is about bringing the power of our partnerships together to bring out a more complete narrative of the Chesapeake landscape, to tell full stories, to identify stories that are untold, that maybe have been purposefully not told, and bring those forward, to identify stories and uncover stories that are lesser known or not known, and really engage in facilitating a conversation that leads to galvanizing conservation and really advancing quality of life messaging and strengthening this ladder of engagement, so that all of the people of the Chesapeake watershed feel connected, see themselves in the stories, and can find a way to connect and be a steward for the Chesapeake. Next slide. Some of the work in this area that we've been focused on, we're really excited about. There are current pilot efforts that we have underway that are exciting. One is a new partnership that we started last year with the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, along with our three of our sort of near in Bay states, so Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. It's an effort to document important African American landscapes and places, and to identify them to then be able to bring them forward for the next phase of wherever it's at in as we bring these forward. So for example, in Virginia, they're looking at Black watermen and the landscapes and stories in Virginia that relate to Black watermen. So it's a pilot effort, and through the work of the National Trust, they're starting to think about a broad way of doing crowdsourcing to bring information forward and really engage a broad community and bringing stories forward and places forward. So we look forward to sharing more as that one proceeds. And of course, we have a long standing, we're working on year 3 of this partnership that's been so successful with the Chesapeake Conservancy and Maryland State Parks with our bilingual ranger program, where young, dynamic, bilingual, rangers are deployed out to state parks to help engage our Latino communities. And in the same vein, our partnership with Corazon Latino, we were really pleased this spring to offer a webinar series on Latino engagement in the Chesapeake. And thank you, Corazon, for really leading that. Those are posted online, and we'll be sure to share that link if folks miss those. And then there's a new opportunity, and we're wanting to, as we're under each of these pillars, we're wanting to be able to stay as nimble as we can when things come forward that are unexpected. And this last one here on the slide is one of those new opportunities that was unexpected. There's a coalition of organizations that are trying to circle together because the last remnants in an area called Elktonia in Annapolis, which is on one of the peninsulas on the sort of ocean side, the bay side of Back Creek in Annapolis, the last remnants of property that was once owned by the Carr family. The Carrs owned 180 acres on that peninsula at one time. And they're also the family that ran and managed the famous Black Beach, Cars Beach, and Sparrow Beach in Annapolis. So last remnant of that property with beachfront associated with it has potential to be saved. So that's just an example of trying to quickly bring a mix of resources together to try to save that. And thanks to Joel Dunn and Alice Estrada and others for working quickly to try to make that happen. Next slide. So our third pillar is promote resilient communities and landscapes through tourism, sustainability, conservation, and local economies. And this, when we were doing all the sessions with our partners, this one really, really rose up to the top. It included such important concepts of supporting and advancing our local economies, the concept of working Chesapeake and honoring the trades and the skills that make the Chesapeake special, and finding ways to engage tourism and sustainability and to grow a true movement of stewardship for the Chesapeake. And so we're excited about some of the work that we've started under this pillar as well. Next slide. So I'll start with the just talking a little bit deeper about the Chesapeake Conservation Partnership and the 30 by 30 goal. You know, the Chesapeake Conservation Partnership is this coalition, like I said, of land trusts and public agencies that are all working to conserve the lands of the Chesapeake watershed. And 2 years ago, the steering committee and the full membership of Chesapeake Conservation Partnership adopted a 30 by 30 target. And we're well on our way. We're at about 22% for the Chesapeake. It was exciting to see recently the news that with a recent big conservation project on the Delmarva Peninsula, the Delmarva is over 40%. And they're aiming for a much higher number than 30 by 30. But I just wanted to share, because there's a movement happening, not just in the country, but in the world. And the Chesapeake is part of that and can play and could play a signature role in that movement. And it's about saving special places. It's about health. It's about nature and biodiversity, but it's also about communities and working landscapes and forests and outdoor recreation. And all of our gateway sites could have a role in helping to advocate for that, helping to find ways in your own community on where you fit in with the 30 by 30. The other piece that we're working on that's sort of in this pillar, there's an effort in Annapolis to really look at and try to strengthen the maritime industry in Annapolis. And our office was part of a task force. And this new report has just come out about how to strengthen the maritime industry in Annapolis, and has a series of recommendations that MPS Gateways will be working with the city to advance. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then this other piece here is exciting, very, very new. We're working on a new agreement with the Trust for Public Lands. The Trust for Public Lands is really focused on and helping communities advance on the concept of understanding the ways to connect communities to green spaces that have been disconnected. So to make sure that our local communities have plans and ideas and ways to create connected experiences for all our communities. So we're going to work with the Trust for Public Lands to think about their model of the, they have a model of a distance that a 10-minute model or a 15-minute model to green space. And we're going to work with them to bring that model to the Chesapeake and start to think through how we look at it for the Chesapeake and opportunities for progress and projects in the future. But we wanted to also share an exciting partnership that even during the pandemic, we moved forward with the Maryland Office of Tourism called Chesapeake Bay Storytellers. And it was really a partnership between Maryland Tourism, Chesapeake Gateways office that is to bring in water tour operators and water tour providers to do a formal training series to more purposefully learn about the Chesapeake, its natural history, its cultural history, to even go through some training on how to give an interpretive talk. And at the end, those individuals that went through the training, we had different locations around Maryland, then they become what we're referring to as Chesapeake Bay storytellers. So we want to share just a quick sort of quick video of that program.
The Chesapeake Bay is filled with stories. Experience exciting Bay adventures with authentic storytellers. Chesapeake Bay storytellers are more than tour guides. They live the history, the ecology, and the adventure every day. Explore the Chesapeake Bay and discover your own story.
So that was the quick video. There's also a Spanish version. There's also a just over 2-minute version. And what I hope you saw in it, because it was very purposefully produced, and I want to thank both Brittany Hall and Gabby Rothi on being part of the team with the Maryland Tourism Office. It was purposely produced to show a range of people experiencing the Chesapeake in authentic ways with their family, with their loved one, all different sorts of people that are connecting with the Chesapeake. So I hope you saw that in that quick video. Next slide. So our fourth and final pillar is to develop gateway communities as strategic focal points. So this is, you got a flavor of that in the last pillar about creating resilient communities and sort of this approach to how to blend sustainability and tourism and authentic economies. In this case, we're even more purposely looking to sort of zoom out and take a community-wide view. And really we're looking to do that to pursue approaches that are sort of all hands focused approaches to really leverage resources from multiple directions and from multiple partners. And we're starting in Annapolis. We sort of felt, Annapolis is our home base, and we should, before sort of delving out beyond where we work out of, we should practice in a sense and really invest in our home, in our hometown. So some really exciting projects are underway in Annapolis, but what I'll share first is how we're looking to develop the gateway community concept is with the Conservation Fund. The Conservation Fund has years of experience of developing the concept of gateway communities with the National Park Service around the country. So most big national parks really work with their communities that are right outside their, their entry gates. And those communities are considered sort of the portals to these big iconic national parks. And the Conservation Fund has run a program for years and years on how to position gateway communities, how to balance conservation with, economic growth, and we're looking to partner with the fund to bring those concepts to the Chesapeake, and so some of that will begin this fall and arc into next year. The Conservancy, as our primary gateways partner, will also be involved in that effort, and some of the projects that we've started in Annapolis are really starting to bring forward the types of projects that we might see as we move forward with the concept of a Gateway Communities initiative. So right in Annapolis, there was a big effort that we helped support community engagement around, and that was to reimagine the city dock area of historic downtown Annapolis. You can see here the existing city dock with all the parking spaces, and the vision that came out of the community engagement process to create a green resilient park for the city dock. It will truly raise up the waterfront to address climate and flooding issues, but also bring a dynamic, active space that's missing in Annapolis, while protecting and preserving the historic core. We're also, and just want to thank Historic Annapolis and Preservation Maryland for bringing us into that effort. And from that effort, we've moved forward on several other projects in Annapolis. We're supporting, next slide. We're supporting there's a project with Annapolis Maritime Museum to build a new park on Back Creek. And so we're supporting a piece of that for public water access. There's a new exhibit that's going to just blow the socks off everyone called Annapolis American Story by Historic Annapolis. And we've supported some of the interpretive pieces for that exhibit. There's a signature project that we're really excited about to stabilize and adaptively reuse the Burtis House, which is the last of its kind. It's the last oyster waterman's home on historic Annapolis waterfront. And so we're partnered with HA to do the feasibility study. And now we've partnered with Preservation Maryland for the first phase to lift it up out of the floodwaters. And I'm really just thankful for the state of Maryland that brought money through the Maryland Heritage Areas Program, as well as to Senator Sarah Elfreth that brought funding from the legislature. And we're partnering with the city for all of these projects. And the one that's most recent and exciting is, as part of that stabilizing and revitalizing the maritime industry, one of the recommendations from that report was to create a comprehensive public water access plan for Annapolis. And so our office has partnered through an interagency agreement with the Department of Transportation's Volpe Center. They're the innovation arm of DOT to bring them in, and we funded that agreement to begin the planning for a major community-wide public water access plan for Annapolis. So that's some of what we have underway. There's a lot happening. We can't wait to interview and hire our 3 chiefs, and then those managers will have a series of positions that they will be recruiting and hiring for. Next slide. Because there's a lot of work to do, and on the horizon are 2 big exciting things. One that we'll go into more detail with, the Chesapeake Gateways grants program that Bob, we're going to talk more in depth with. And then the other piece on the horizon that I think you all have been sort of seeing in the news and the media is a congressional proposal to create a Chesapeake National Recreation Area. And it's a long-held vision to create a national park for the Chesapeake. The momentum is growing. Senator Chris Van Hollen is the leader in Congress, along with Congressman Sarbanes, on the idea, and it's bringing forward the concept of a string of pearls, the idea of knitting together places that are land-based to create a partnership national park. So a lot that's currently happening. Our strategies we feel are really solid, and some exciting things on the horizon. So I'll just pause there and see if there's just any kind of quick questions before we go to this session on talking about grants with Bob.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wendy, this is Brent. Just with an eye on the clock, we might want to come back to questions at the very end.
Great, perfect. All right, Bob, take us away.
Okay, well, listen, we appreciate everybody joining us today, and Wendy's given you all just an incredible data dump. Understand, we know that planning processes run long and kind of challenge people's attention span, but we wanted just to get you up to date with a few things to assure you that that we were committed to these strategies that we developed together with you, and time, talent, and treasure is already being devoted to the projects that Wendy has highlighted to start moving us in these directions. But as always, so much of the real force behind these kinds of goals is supplied by you all, our partners out in the broader Chesapeake landscape. Some of you are already represented in these projects that have been profiled, but there's opportunities for others of you. So we're going to be having a grant program here in our coming up with FY22. Started a couple of days ago, but rolls out in front of us. We wanted just to highlight, by turning back to the Initiative Act, just to remind you that there's a couple of things that are already in the initiative that Congress tells us about how our grant program needs to be structured. Some of you know this from past experience. One-to-one matching requirement for the costs involved in it. That those costs can come from any sort of non-federal source, can be in-kind contributions, service materials, staffing as necessary to make up your part of the match. And this other one that's a requirement that there is a limit on the administrative expenses that can be in. But beyond that, we can tailor this program in a way that will best suit our needs in advancing these strategic initiatives. So we have not a lot of time left today. And so this is just us being little greedy little pigs and wanting to hear a couple of things from you. If you can wear your hat of a party interested in the Gateways network as a whole, and help us with this question, that is, how can NPS tailor the Chesapeake Gateways grant program to help assure that it advances these strategic priorities? So I'm going to encourage us all to use the chat and put in your response again to that question that I've now put in the chat. How can NPS Chesapeake tailor the Chesapeake Gateways grant program to help assure that it advances these priorities? So if you can just take a moment, think about it, and add to the chat your one best suggestion for us. And then we'll, after a few moments, we'll raise your hand if you would like to verbalize some thoughts for sharing with the group. But the chat, please, will help us to capture your ideas and begin to shape our thinking as we work on this.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to crack the code on the simple application process, huh, Felipe?
I mean, sorry if it's not the right time to talk, but there's a lot that some foundations and philanthropic endeavors have been investing in figuring it out. So there's some lessons learned there that we might be able to tap into. I know I've been asked multiple times to evaluate an application process for foundation money, particularly.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that.
I'll just add, I mean, I think the themes are so diverse and broad, which speaks, to the larger work in the Chesapeake, but I think it could be helpful for applicants if there was even some type of evaluation framework as they're potentially proposing a project that's helping to make a site more diverse and inclusive versus one that maybe is more focused on climate resiliency. They could do both, but they might not check all the boxes, and how could they navigate that in a project?
Thanks, Ed, and welcome back to MPCA.
Thank you.
Yay. All right. Yeah, so we are looking for recommendations and ideas, sort of taking off your individual hat, putting on sort of, your Gateways hat on structure, best practices, things that would help it, function well. Is there a kind of cycle that's better, for most folks than another timing cycle? Any ideas in those realms?
Alice, maybe while others are still thinking about their contribution, can you tell us a bit more about what you mean that essentially, is this a localization of strategies and tactics, or what's your thought?
Well, I think my thought was initially when we were participating in the framing of the strategic plan, I personally noticed, oh my gosh, the mission overlap with these initiatives and what the museum does is enormous. And so I feel that because the Park Service generally isn't in the business, cannot possibly execute all these programs as an agency, that you should look for the partners, which is what you do anyway, but to really align with some of these great initiatives. One example was, the funding that you're doing on the Black Waterman in Virginia is something a story we're telling here in the museum right now. Could we expand on that? Could we make that do more outreach on that? How could we better tell that story? I mean, obviously we're already connected with school children. So these are things that got me thinking, like, how can we propel what we're already sometimes doing, but also propel us into new stories and ideas that really will, that your initiatives are going to prompt us to go. I don't know if that made sense, but.
No, that's great. Thanks, Alice. Yeah, I saw the note about the 10%, both the match and the 10% are going to be barriers, kind of equity barriers. And so, we've started to talk out loud and think about, engaging with partners to be able to do some fundraising so that we bring the match ahead of time, so that there are more organizations and more communities that would be able to participate.
Wendy, is that matching requirement on a per grant basis, or is it on a programmatic basis?
Our legislation has two components, our enabling legislation. The component for gateways is per project, so per grant.
Got it. Thank you.
There's a second component under Chesapeake Gateways that we've been using for years and years. That's our technical and financial assistance. That's not the grants program, that is silent on matching and capping the admin costs. So we will continue to use that authority as well, but we're looking to purposefully stand up the grants program. And that one does have specific, language in the legislation. Support capital projects.
I guess we'll have to apologize in general that we've bitten off more than we might be able to chew in 1 hour here with all that we've shared with you. And this is a big question. You'll be thinking about your own projects. I know here today we were hoping just to gather a few of your hottest ideas about the program in general and how we should think about structuring it. So still use the chat if something occurs to you. And other than that, I think Wendy may have some summary comments for us.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you. We have a second one of these sessions tomorrow. And lesson learned, we'll try to trim down the presentation portion so we get more time around the grants conversation. And we'll just share that our intent is to, as we're staffing up to be able to do more of these sort of a mix of the informal social, networking across the Gateways partners, but also more of the kinds of training and webinars that we did with Corazon Latino. And so we'll be looking to schedule more of those kind of opportunities with various partners. So keep an eye out for that. And also just wanted to share as a closing slide, Bob's and my email to stay in touch with us, and then to also invite you to find me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, and I'm actually thinking about creating a Gateways group, a Chesapeake Gateways group on LinkedIn. So there's the address to find me on LinkedIn. And we'll stay in touch. And if you want to come back tomorrow, that's fine. And otherwise, have a great week. Thank you all.
Thanks, all.
Gracias.